Yeah. So good evening, everybody. My name is Yogesh Agiwal from Crossover Leadership Journeys. It's a pleasure to have you guys for this webinar on emotional agility during changing times. I mean, this is not new topic as such, in the sense people have really experienced a change in last 1 year that is just unprecedented. We could never imagine, the change that we all have gone through. And Crossover Leadership Journeys is one organization that essentially works on a longer journey model approach of leadership. So I'm just giving a brief background, and I know Indrajit, who has been our participant. So our thinking is that no transformation can happen overnight. Yeah, it takes some time to happen, and it needs a sustained effort. So today's session is one of the or two of the modules that we have in our leadership journey model, which I've tried to combine and bring sense for you. So it's just a 90-minute session. We'll wind up at 6:30. So there's not really a training session, but as a webinar where I want to leave you with a lot of questions when you go back, and give you enough framework for you to try it out. So when you go back to your workplace, you will be able to use some of that very nicely. So that is my promise to all of you. And we'll make it quite interactive. I have not put in too much of content. So it's not like content heavy. I've just put 6, 7 slides, and I'll just flash the slide, and we will have, conversation around that. Yeah. And as always, there is nothing right or wrong answer to any of the questions that you may ask. So feel free to ask anything. A brief about me is that some of you may have seen my LinkedIn profile. So I'm a computer engineer by qualification, not a trainer from the beginning. I became a trainer in Wipro in 2009. I was heading the leadership group for about 20 trainers for about 7 years, and that is where I did that. And uh, in 2009 and 2015 is when Crossover Leadership Journey started. So we are a journey-based leadership development company. So let me begin today's session by a question to all of you. Yeah, that when you look at so this title is Emotional Agility in Changing Times. So essentially, I'm going to cover how we process our emotions. Yeah, so some of you have already attended any of my emotional intelligence session earlier. You will see that element that is the foundation of how we think. Yeah, so maybe the way Richard, can manage change moving from Pune to Kerala to Bangalore to Pune again, may be very different than what Indrajit can do, or maybe Pooja Adhikari can do. She is born and brought up in Hyderabad. She never left Hyderabad, and if you have to move her to some location like Kerala, whether she would be, how would she manage that change? Yeah, and there are many changes that that we go through. It could be in our personal life, it could be in our professional life, and we have not been really taught about change in any of our in our school or in our college, right? It's just been told us. So if you look at the change process in our families, or in our workplace, or in our college, I mean, there is just a circular sent to people. Okay, this is a change going to happen, put it on the notice board. But people have not realized the change that people go through. Is everybody as a human ready for that change? So you might be super excited. Like for example, if I get a big offer from a company in Chennai, maybe I am super excited. But is my family excited about going to Chennai, for example, if they have just been raised in this location? And they will still go, because from a entire family angle, I think they would want to see the progress. But then how do you manage that change? If you don't manage the change systematically, then I think all that great ideas will not really see the result. And I'm going to show you some Gartner statistics on how the change has not been really successful in most places. So let me begin by asking this question: that What are some of the thoughts that come to your mind when we talk about change? So you can either unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat window. You can do that.
We are generally resistant to any kind of major change that might happen in life. So whether it is, anything, whether it's a job change or whether it is marriage or anything, we generally consider it to be a big milestone, and there will be an internal resistance, at least initially. Probably once we do a lot of introspection and analysis, we probably realize whether the change is good for us.
Very nice, very nice. Thanks, Shrikant. Very, very apt. Anybody else? Yeah.
Something like that, a variation, if you are not, something you are doing in a different way, which is not common in practice or something like that. A variation in the common way of doing the things. Maybe that's what I think its change is defined as.
Okay. Very nice. Super.
Something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to. Okay. I can see Priyanka sharing that change is never welcomed, but it is inevitable. Very nice. Okay. Okay. Vinay says, I think fear of change is. So I can see that there are some people who are like maybe excited about change or happy about change or don't really have major concern, but there are some people who are maybe not wanting to make that change, and that I think is the starting point of what we want to deal with this. And you're not alone, some of them who have really shared that they are not happy. So if you look at this Gartner statistic, 64% of the change initiatives in most organizations have been unsuccessful. And when you look at the reasons behind that, you will see that a lot of them are unsuccessful not because of technology issues. They are unsuccessful because of the way the leaders could not handle the change. And when I looked at this Gartner report, I felt that 64% is really a very huge, huge number when you look at this. And when I look at some of the frameworks that are available to us, and today's session is to help you guys take something out of this which you can go back and really apply that in your real life. And since we are now connected, you can maybe tell Karthik, Pooja Jain, Sulbha, all of us at Crossover, how have you been able to apply that? And how can we learn to positively influence this situation is what we are going to learn, in the program. Yeah. So if you look at change, many a times the person who is driving the change, is very excited, and he is like, he is less scary about how he's making the change. So if you look at this picture, what does it tell you? Which are the characters that you can see from this picture, and what is happening in this picture?
Focus on the road rather than on the people.
Very nice. Okay. What else? What else do you see?
It looks like somebody is driving fast time and her mother or mother-in-law scared about the things. Something like that.
Very nice. Very nice. Absolutely. Yeah. Very nice. So you can visualize. Yeah.
Co-passenger is more scared than the driver.
Co-passenger is more scared than. Very nice. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you bring this picture back to our organization or back to our home or back to our family, sometimes when we are driving the change, right, we essentially are less scary and more comfortable. But imagine about the other people that are with us, and this is something when we go along in this session today, we'll also look at how emotions are going to play in the whole game as we go along. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a very interesting framework to manage this journey, and this is by an author called William Bridges. So has anybody read this book called Managing Transitions by any chance? Anybody in the audience? Yeah. Anybody who has read? Yeah. I can, yeah, no problem. So essentially, this book is a very interesting book, not a very complicated book. So what William Bridges says is that, any change that you see has got broadly, three phases, and this is like a river. So, we are generally standing on the, bottom here, left side of the river, and we are crossing the river of change. So you will start seeing that for every change, there is going to be an ending, which means something is going to end, whether it is a system, whether it is a location, whether it is a product, whether it is a relationship. When you're making this shift, the change is going to happen. So there is going to be an ending where I think you will have to deal with the loss of that change. You'll have to bring that to a closure. And then there is this neutral phase, where people are still, thinking about that, ending that has happened. So they are not still ready for the new beginning. And then there is this new beginning where I think they are now comfortable with that. And I always, sometimes try to give this example of a newly wedded, bride actually. So when you look at many families, when the bride comes to the new home, I think there is an ending that is happening for her with the mother's place. Yeah. So if you look at, and as we go along, what William Bridges talks about is, a lot of rituals. So why do we actually have this, Bidaika program, and there is this, the bride's brother comes and drops her to the place, and then again she goes back for a few days to her mother's place. And so if you look at many of those rituals that has been there in our customs are the backdrop of this whole change that happens. So when the bride is very nicely received in the new family, which means that when as a received is not about the intention, and I'm giving this example because in our society you will see there is a lot of this issue of the new brides not able to settle in the new home. And one of the reasons I feel is that a lot of rituals that were actually built to handle those changes are no longer followed, and there could be an element of that influencing the environment that we are seeing today. Now, the bride, if is handled well, meaning is received well, is helped, so she's still missing the old family, old way of living. And in that phase, if the neutral phase is handled really well, you will see that the new bride settles absolutely well. And then there is a new beginning, and you will see that once the new beginning has, started, I think they almost become part of the new family, and they almost, go back. And there could be some things of renewal that you want to give to those people so that they are fully settled in that. Yeah. So if you start looking at any change with this model in your mind, and then you start really working towards that. So if you want to make a change, or if you want to say stop a line of business, or you want to stop a location or whatever, you now have this in mind in the background that what are people going to lose when we make this change. So today what must be happening is that you are thinking so much of the new beginning that you have forgotten that a lot of people are still in the ending phase. So as a leader, are you able to think through in such a detail that you're actually planning your change plan, keeping all these three phases in mind? So what you're doing is you are keeping certain phase for ending. You are putting together certain rituals that will help people let go of their past. Then they are giving them some space to settle in the new beginning. So like you saw in this driver, right, in the previous slide, you saw the driver absolutely, at that speed of change, but the co-passengers were not. So if you can let this co-passenger take some time to be in those phases, and then you can see that the new beginning is guaranteed a success. Yeah. And as we go along in this, we will talk more about it. But I'll take a pause here and maybe ask you guys to share your reflections, your thoughts on whatever I've explained so far. Any thoughts, any reflections? Are you able to relate to something that is happening? Yeah. So Indrajit, please.
Hi. I was just thinking in a corporate context,
Yes.
how do we ensure that, these three phases? Because if you look at life, especially when we look at relationships, it takes time for you to finish something, go into the neutral zone and come out into something
Yes.
new. But
Yes.
in corporate, when you have to implement the change at the speed of time, all of these things tend to merge very closely together to a point where we really don't communicate about anything. And like you said, just hand a memo to the team saying, this is what's going to happen. So
Yes.
we'll talk about it later, but that never happened. So
Yes.
question is, how do we meaningfully create these, you know, how do I say, these phases? And
Yes.
given the time constraints, how do we ensure that we have those rituals or equivalent in a corporate setting
Yes.
to ensure that we are taking the team together and not just running headlong?
Yes. So Indrajit, we have been doing this change for a lot of our clients, and what we have seen is that people don't even put the first project plan, putting this three thing in mind. Okay, so then what happens is that the question of people not supporting you comes later, but the first project plan itself is not with this in mind. So, for example, when I ask, like whenever we do a change at Crossover, and Bubbly, who is heading our sales center of excellence, she absolutely knows that how detailed we go through before we make a change, which means that we absolutely take people in confidence. We talk to them. We give them the whole idea of what they're going to lose out. The new role. What does it look like? Yeah, and what we have seen is the moment we have these three phases in mind, we are never very upset that why is this not working out, because we can literally see how people are going through. And if you look at this slide, it talks about what are the different say feelings and emotions people go through. So if you look at when it is an ending, they are very frustrated, they're angry. Some may not voice out as openly as some others, but as a leader, are you able to keep this? And I'm going to, by the way, send these slides to all of you. You can keep these slides with you. You can spend some more time, go through the William Bridges framework, and then you will see that the confused emotion is there in both, in neutral phase as well as ending. Yeah. So if you are aware of these three phases, then you're not upset with people. Otherwise, the way you respond to their questions almost makes them feel that better to not ask any more question and just follow what is being told to them. And but ultimately the result will not come because they have not bought into that. Yeah. So my thinking is, while there is pressure of time, if we can budget this into our first proposal and give some extra padding to that, you will be able to get the required period for that. And you can show the Gartner's statistics, where if you don't follow these phases, you are just about guaranteed that it will not succeed actually. Yeah. And most people don't know this. So they almost, I have seen clients, when we talk about change, they give a date which is in my mind just a short failure. But when I start putting this together in front of them, saying that there are 80 people who are going to get impacted, yeah, who's going to talk to these 80 people? What is the communication plan they are having? The response time on their communication, the celebration if they agree, the time for them if they don't agree. All that, when you start putting together, you start realizing that. Yeah. Richard, I had seen your hand also going up. So any question? And
it was not really a question, but rather, something I thought, I would pitch in based on the experience. So even we had a lot of, changes that came in or were happening in the recent times. So like you rightly said, it's about communicating the change well in advance and also getting the team that will be impacted by it, on board with the change. So
yeah.
if I may, lead with give you an example. So we are actually working on a project right now which is going through its pre-production phase. So
Yeah.
a lot of things were volatile, and suddenly there was a decision from the management,
Yes.
or rather the lead studio, to drop almost 25
Sure.
by people who are actively working on the project. You know how it is with games. They get,
Yes.
at least most of the people get emotionally invested with the products or projects as such that they're working on. So we worked it out in such a way that we found alternate projects for the team.
Yeah.
We gave them a nice send off, even though it was pre-production. We
Yeah.
had like a virtual party gathering for everyone.
Right.
Made sure that we continuously communicated with the team that this was not as a result of any sort of performance issues, but something that was beyond the CodeDev studio or the teams as such. So I
Yes.
just wanted to
Very nice. Very nice. Richard, very nice. I think you guys have done a good job on doing that part.
it
Yeah.
would
Very
give some
nice.
insight.
Super. Super. Thank you so much. Yeah. So thanks, I think, Richard and both Indrajit. So you look at this, and I'll send this to so you guys. You can see the kind of emotions and feelings that people go through. So you can see, in the ending when people are there, you could say they become hostile, they're anxious, they doubt, they are lost, they are dazed, they're suspicious, they're resistant. Yeah, you can see all that. And the reason I put all this feeling the emotions for all of you is that you can then start really observing and people, and you will start seeing different people demonstrating different emotions. And as a leader, I think if you're aware of all this, you yourself are also a human being, right? So you will also go through certain changes, experiencing yourself. And then finally, I think if you are aware of all this, you have put this plan together, I don't see a problem you finally getting this through and making this successful. So as a leader, you need to observe these feelings and emotions. So my next question, and now I'm connecting change with emotions. So what is the difference between feelings and emotions? And I would like all of you to turn on your cameras so that I can see you guys and you can interact with me, because talking to a black screen is not as inspiring as talking to, at least the nearest is I can see your pictures and talk to you. So all of you can turn on your cameras and you can share what is the difference between a feeling and emotion. Anybody? And there is no right or wrong answer. You can try it out. Yeah, whatever comes to your mind.
I think feelings are more to do with the reactions that we get from a particular situation.
Okay.
Emotions are, I would say, something that we are born with, like emotion of fear, emotion of happiness.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but yeah, feelings, I'm sure, are the reactions that you get out of the situation. Emotions, maybe I'm not.
No problem. I think good. Thank you, Priyanka, for taking a shot at it. And when you Google on this, you will find like lot of
Feelings are internal, I think. Feelings are internal, emotions are shown.
emotions are shown, feelings are internal. Okay. Very nice, Abhay. Thank you. Anybody else? Any?
See, feeling is sensation. Emotion is, the end result of feeling.
Feeling
When you
is
say
sensation.
frustrated. See, for example, frustrated. I don't like this is the feeling, but at the end of the day, result is I got frustrated or dejected.
Okay. Sure.
Maybe.
Sure. No problem. I think good.
Maybe
Okay.
feelings are like a conscious thing, whereas emotions are unconscious things.
Feelings are conscious things and emotions are unconscious things. Okay. Okay, no problem. So, I think as you saw that, Priyanka had some version, Abhay had something, and I think we heard some other people also. So when you look at, the research on this and you Google on this, you will find, lot of different, various responses to this. And I'm going to unshare this and maybe share something about this to all of you. So What I liked about is the framework of Richard Boyatis and Annie McKay, and I'm going to share this with you. I see that Ashish, hi Ashish, you've turned on your camera, so good to see you. Others, I think if possible, you can turn on your camera because right now we have, I can see still a lot of Sulbharati, so you can rename yourself by clicking the 3 dots on the right hand side and just rename and put your name, the real name. I don't know why Sulbharati has come in when people logged in, and also your company name, so we know which company you are joining us from. So essentially, if you look at the framework of Richard Boyatis, so he talks about that every human being has got born with 4 feelings, and these are very nice. So if you've got a notepad and a pen, you can write it: sad, glad, mad, and scared. Yeah, so it's very nice to remember: sad, glad, mad, and scared. So if you look at a 6-month-old child, whether he's born in Noida or in Kerala or in Pune or in Germany, you will see the same 4 feeling getting demonstrated. So if he is not around with people, he'll become sad. If he is, if you start playing with him, he'll become glad. If he's hungry, he'll become mad. And if again nobody's around him, he'll become scared. Yeah, so this is born. You see any child in the world, you will see this. Now, as we grow, the play of emotion starts coming into our lives, which means that especially in a formative age of 6 to 12 is where a lot of our experiences get recorded in our limbic system, and I'll talk about that. So to narrate this, I'm going to introduce you to a story, and you would have heard this if you have attended some of my earlier program. One of my easiest way to drive this thinking in your mind. So Geeta is a girl who is 8-year-old, and she's been asked to say the poem on the Republic Day function of the school, and this is 25th year of her school. So she's been asked to say the poem as an opening batsman. So she's going to open the session on that day. Yeah. So she's very excited, and people are all, the father and mother has invited all the people from the nearby town, and everybody is waiting for Geeta to say the poem on that day. And father really helped her to by heart the whole poem, and mother got the frilka frock, and lot of expense was done, and they got the first row in the hall. So all the relatives, so if Karthik and Priyanka are their relative, they are sitting in front of the row, and they are all waiting for Geeta to say the poem. And as the curtain opens, Geeta sees 1,000 people in the auditorium, and she becomes nervous. And when you become nervous, and she forgets the first line of the poem. And those of you who have by-hearted in your life, you know that the moment you forget the first line of the poem, you're not able to remember anything, anymore. So just a second. I think I'll just try to see if so she is now not able to remember the remaining of the poem. So she doesn't say the poem, and the father looks at her and gives that starry look that come home, batata hu ke matlab itna kharcha kiya and now you're not saying the poem. So the more the father looks at her, the more she is nervous. So it's about 5 to 7 minutes, and finally Geeta makes a decision. Yeah, what's that decision? That from today I will not go on any stage, no matter what. Now fast forward her life to 26-year-old, and she is now joined Crosso Leadership Journeys. And every time I tell Geeta that, hey, tomorrow Priyanka has arranged for a customer presentation, can you go and present? She will say that I have doctor's appointment, or my mother is not well, or my grandmother passed away. These are the 3 reasons that people generally give when they don't want to take up any assignment. So every time I tell her, she says that doctor's appointment, mother. So I one day asked her that, kitna grandmother, like how many grandmothers you have? So both relatives there. So every time one or the other keep passing. But in reality, what is happening is, if you look at this slide, which is essentially the shape of our brain. So in the limbic system is where the experiences are stored, which is feeling and emotion. So whenever Yogesh is asking that, can you go for the presentation tomorrow? She is getting one of the three of the four feeling, which is sad, mad, or scared. And she is processing the emotion. We are calling it as left side processing of emotion, which is essentially operating with the limbic system. But now, with this whole science of emotion intelligence, she can now start doing a different processing of emotion. So what she does is, the moment Yogesh tells us that tomorrow Priyanka is arranged for a customer, she takes a pause and connects it with the rational brain, which is also called as prefrontal cortex. Once she connects with the prefrontal cortex, she can do the right side processing of emotion. So right side processing of emotion would mean what? She will say that, hey, Yogesh, I think I really find it difficult to go and present. So can you talk to Priyanka and ask her to start off, and then I will take the remaining part. And I know Karthik is a great voice and accent trainer. So can I get trained by her and deliver the presentation? So the right side processing of emotion is like upward spiral. It is giving a lot of option. The body physiologically generates lot of endorphins. If you do left side processing of emotion, the body is generating cortisol. It is like a downward spiral. There are no options coming up. Now, by default, if you continue to operate with the limbic system, which means that you're not connecting with the rational brain, then you will continue to operate giving those three reasons that I will not take up. Now, how does this connect with the change? We'll develop it. So people like Gita, who have had that experience in the past, don't want to make any change, because that experience of limbic system is constantly driving their behavior by manifesting those responses. Now, our brain is interestingly never static, which means that if you practice, so brain is responsive to intentional practice, which means if Gita starts practicing right side processing for some time, whenever there is a next time a situation like what Yogesh is asking, which is a threat, she will start now not dealing with in the same format. And with this program today, and we have done this, scores of time, and we have like 10,000 participants who have so far gone through emotional intelligence that we have tried to bring in. They have really changed from left side processing of emotion to right side processing of emotion. So I'll take a pause here and ask you guys to reflect, share your thoughts. What do you guys think? And this silence is by design, so no problem. You can take your time to think through and respond. This is a very relaxing program in the evening, so no worries. Yeah, Ashish, Priyanka, you had unmuted, so I thought you wanted to ask something. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I just
actually,
want to. Sorry, Ashish, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks a lot. The biggest problem that I face is that whenever there is something which is hurting me, or which is kind of going against my beliefs or my thinking, the first reaction is to burst out and do something which you may regret later. But the point is, I don't think it's a very rational thinking process that goes through. It is something that comes at you, it hits you, and you react. It's like more like a flight or fight kind of a thing.
Yes.
The point is that, are you saying that you can train a person to react in a more rational, more, let's say, thought out manner?
Yes, absolutely, Ashish.
All right.
But as you said, I also want to introduce you to one more part of the brain called amygdala. Okay, so now amygdala is part of the brain is, and Priyanka, I'll just come to you once I address Ashish's question. And this is for all of us, it's not just only for Ashish. So
Sure.
there's one more part of the brain called amygdala. So essentially, Ashish, this part of the brain's function is to scan for threat. Okay, so for example, I'm in this room and the ceiling is started to crack. Okay, and there is a chance that the ceiling may fall. Okay, this amygdala will quickly get activated. It will supply the blood to my arms so that I can hold the ceiling, or it will supply the blood to my feet so that I can run from this room. Okay, which is flight or fight. At that time, it is taking all the blood from our brain and supplying it to our body. Okay, because that time there is no rational thinking required. So I will not say, अरे इसका बिल्डर कौन है, आर्किटेक्ट से बात करो यार, ये कैसे गिर रहा है, जीएमसी पीएमसी से, अरे वो सब बाद में, पहले तो right now you have to save yourself. Okay, now this amygdala is a primitive brain, which means it is in general not trained in most of us. So what happens is, if Ashish and I am having a conversation and I am saying something that Ashish is not okay with, for amygdala, that is also a threat. So then you start becoming irrational, and then after some time, when the blood goes back to your brain, you start realizing, अरे यार इतना जोर से चिल्लाने का कोई मतलब नहीं था. And you will see that more often on a airport. You know, when you go to the airport and say, if I want to come to Delhi and I reach there and there is a program tomorrow morning and the flight person says at the crew that, sir, your flight is got cancelled. Amygdala immediately gets activated, and then people start banging the counter and shouting at top of their voice. Now, if you were to train your amygdala slowly, okay, which means it's a practice that, and in fact, I'll recommend a book that all of you should read, and there are 10 suggestions in that book to start training the amygdala. So once you train the amygdala, it's not that the threat is not there, but then what you do is you start saying to the person on the airline that, hey, is there any other airline that I can board? You call your client saying that, hey, I know that I'll be late by tomorrow. Is there a way we can schedule the session at 11 o'clock? Can I take a flight to Agra and then travel to Delhi? You have many options with that. So it was not there. So one day I was doing this program and somebody said that, yaar ek kaam karte na, Apollo hospital is very close by. So why don't we go and remove the amygdala? So once for all this issue will get over. I said, yeah, we can do that. But next time you are on the road and suddenly a big truck comes, you will not even move. So the amygdala is required for our safety and our survival, but it gets activated wrong time. So why do we get angry? Because when people are not agreeing to our point of view, the amygdala gets active. How do you train that? So if I'm having an argument with Ashish, I start replacing the word saying that, yeah, Ashish is somebody who is really a difficult person to deal with, versus I say that, yeah, Ashish has a different point of view. And the amygdala slowly starts getting trained. So over a period of time, the limbic system and the amygdala don't go into the reactive mode. You're always using the rational brain to respond. And as I was saying, our mind is responsive to intentional practice, which means that if I do this over a period of time, the brain starts responding accordingly. And then you will start to see for yourself that things that you were getting too upset about are things that you start seeing a very different point of view. And then you start seeing, Arey yaar, sahi hai, say, I think whatever I could possibly do. Then you are starting into a mode of conversation. So you are then not shutting people down. You are saying that, hey, why are you thinking this way? Yaar? I thought it is this way. What's your point of view? And it's so amazing to discover so many points of view. And then you are never upset with anybody because you are saying, yeah, everybody has a point of view. Let me start discussing and discovering that. And I'm not saying that we have to agree to everybody's point of view. But unless we are in the mode of those dialogue, you don't even know what else they are actually wanting to share. And that becomes so powerful for our growth, because otherwise we are limiting our conversation to whatever I think is all right. Dunya kya bol rahi wo nahi karte. It's become so fulfilling for all of us actually. Yeah. Ashish, hope it helped to.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What is the name of that book you said?
It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradbury. Travis Bradbury is and in fact, that book has a nice assessment that you can take. It's available on Amazon, so it has a code inside the book. You can take an assessment to see for yourself. Yeah.
So this is very much required in domestic context.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. In fact, I have had some participant's wife calling me after, like Ashok was one of my participant in one of our client in Trivandrum. Can you believe his wife called me? And he said that I don't know, his age is 43, and he said, I don't know what you have done after your program. This guy is absolutely almost not getting angry as often as he used to. And it was like 4th month in the program. And I said, it's not about me, it's about his own practice of watching his amygdala, giving a pause between the limbic response and the rational response and connecting it both together. And then this is so every time this is one example I'm just quoting because somebody talked about domestic, but there are many corporates who have taken advantage of that. And imagine if the entire department can think this way, you will have no difference of opinion where the difference will exist. I'm not denying, but there is so much of conversation that will happen. So much will come out on the table. The choices will be so bright for all of you to figure out which choice we can make. Yeah. Priyanka, you also had a question. Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share something with you.
Sure.
I would say that you kind of rightly described me what I was 20 years back, where I used to be scared of probably being there on the podium and giving that speech. When I say giving that speech, not literally giving that speech, but yeah, to take up a responsibility or to whether to go through a change, it was pretty difficult for me.
Yes.
Over a period of time with a lot of mentors that I've had in my life.
Yes.
I have been able to, though I don't understand, I right now, I'm not very clear with limbic system and rational brain.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been able to maintain that balance, not knowing the science.
Very nice.
So I would say, yeah, you're right on bang on the point, stating that when you talk about emotions and feelings, this is how we process it.
Yes.
We first feel from our old experience, our past experiences.
Yes.
That's how we react, and that's how we emote, ourselves in front of people.
Yes. And the other thing is that Priyanka, while I gave you the example of presentation, but what happens is that this starts showing up in every part of the life.
Of course.
It is not just about that. Yeah.
20 years back, I was like that. Then later on, I became a trainer, and I really thank my mentors that today, if I see myself progress, if I see the graph that I have over these years, it has actually helped me in changing myself.
Yes.
I would say that's why I said that change may not be welcome, but yes, it's inevitable, and we have to accept it with open arms.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So this is the whole idea, behind this. Also, imagine if we were to start practicing this, and from a change perspective, so whenever there is a change that is told to us, we will have this first response coming from the amygdala and limbic, because by nature, our brain doesn't want to actually have any changes because it doesn't like change. Okay, but the reality is that change is never going to be like, if you guys also want to read about entropy on internet, you will see that, if I don't do anything, I will start deteriorating. So if I say that from tomorrow morning, I'll stop brushing my teeth, for example, if I don't do anything, my teeth will deteriorate, which means that there is no choice that we have as human beings. We have to make changes. Otherwise, change is going to happen. It is like a principle like gravity. Okay. So if that is the case,
By hook or crook, it will find its way.
yes, yes. So what we can manage is to learn this and do that. Yeah. So anybody else, any thoughts, any questions before we take this forward? Anybody else, any thoughts? I can see. Let me check some comments. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any thoughts on whatever we have done so far? Well, this is one of the pivotal concepts that I think from a change perspective, I think we all will have to really get our hands around this. So as we go along this journey, what I'm also going to give you is this, very nice tool that you can actually start using this. So if you look at this tool, there are some questions and the role of the leader. So this tool will come to you when Sulbha sends you the PPT, and you can use this with your team. So whenever you are doing change, so Indrajit, you can do very nicely that. Look at these three phases whenever you're dealing with change. Yeah. So these are the some questions that you can actually ask your team to to think about. Yeah. And what will be the role of the leader is that when you ask this question, like what are people going to lose? Yeah. What must they do to let go? So if you have a certain set of people who are going to be involved in this change, you circulate this question and then you start getting the response. Now you can do this in groups. You can send this as a survey. You can collect a lot of data. For each of these phases, there are some very interesting questions that you can use that, what would you do in the ending phase? What would you do in the neutral phase? What would be the new beginning? What is the new way? So when you start asking these questions, you will also start getting a lot of inputs that will help you to streamline the implementation of the change. And then at some point, you are not really upset with any change because you are becoming a master of change. In fact, you start love changing because that change gives you that additional competitive advantage in the market, because not everybody is so structured, so organized, so excited about change, which you are doing that because now you have got this emotional agility in you. You have got the change management, simple process. So ending, neutral, and new beginnings are very interesting way to do that. So you can take this and do this exercise. And there are some of the answers which I would like you all to take a look at it. And these are like the answers that you can keep it with you. And then as you go along in the journey, you can refer to them. You can see how that is matching with whatever you are experiencing. Yeah. So you can see that how you can, do some of the symbolic events. So why do we do many a time send off? Yeah. Because that is a symbolic event to say that, okay, now the relationship with your current organization is over. Why do we do orientation and welcome to the new employees? Because that is a new beginning for them. But imagine if the manager doesn't do the new beginning properly, you will start seeing a lot of infant attrition happening. Yeah, now you'll be able to connect with why infant attrition happens, because there is not proper ending that has happened there. So when they are still here, they are still thinking about the previous organization, previous supervisors, and hence they are seeing this disconnect with the new organization. Yeah. So these are some very interesting. Any point that you would like me to say elaborate, or any point that comes to your mind that you would like to reflect on something that you have experienced yourself and now you are able to connect with that? Yeah. Anybody? So I am seeing Vinay Chauhan also from our ex-Wipro. So Ashish, Vinay also was in Wipro. So yeah. Priya, any thoughts that you would like to share on any of these that you are seeing here? Or
yeah, so Yogesh, when you're talking about infant attrition, right?
yes.
So, and especially during this pandemic time, we have seen a lot of infant attrition.
Yes. Absolutely. And I must tell you, Priya, that if we were to teach this to all our managers, that how you have to manage the initial 3 weeks with a new employee with this context, saying that there is a proper ending that has to happen. And what does it mean by ending? It is meaning by ending is that talking about the previous organization, talking about the previous boss, talking about what he really loved about the job there, what did he love about the organization there, and how the new organization can create a similar experience for that person. If we can teach our managers to look at that, so if you go back to one of my slides where I talked about those emotions, and say if the new infant or new employee is demonstrating an emotion that the new manager may even be upset about. They might think, I got you by giving 30% hike, and why are you not showing that excitement? The excitement is not shown that he's happy with the 30%. There is no doubt about it. But then the ending has not happened. So the emotion that you're seeing in that person is not that he's not happy with 30% hike. He's actually happy, but he's still having the other part of the ending that has to be taken care of. So is the manager able to acknowledge this part, that there is a sense of loss for this person with the previous organization? Or even the entire family, if suppose somebody is relocating or somebody is also doing some transfer on their own, there could be many background like this. Are the managers going into those details to actually help these people to acknowledge that? And while the people who have come to this new organization also have taken a rational choice, no doubt about it, but the emotions take up so much that even that rational decision, at sometimes they go back and it looks like an irrational decision, but the ability of the manager to not address this ending makes that loss happen. So Priya, do share this with some of your managers. Let them read this book called Managing Transitions, and they will get a lot of, and this is such a wonderful framework that you can apply in every part of your life, personal life, professional life, projects, attrition, wherever you. Yeah. Yeah, Priya.
Thanks, Yogesh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as you move, after ending, you will start seeing the neutral zone. Yeah, where I think we many a times tell our leaders when we do this implementation with our clients, we tell them that if you are going to roll out a change on say 15th January, you should not be traveling during that week, which means you should be, I'm talking about this pre-pandemic, or even if it is in pandemic, that are you available to people during all these three phases, and especially the ending and the neutral phase? Because when people are seeing that they are not available, they start making their own conclusions. So if the leader is not available, some of them will say to others that maybe this change is not going to go through because I don't know where the leaders are. I think, are they making some changes that will impact our future? So this starts spreading like a viral fire, because people are becoming very irrational. And you saw the limbic system, you saw the rational brain, and maybe after some change they would say that, oh, whatever we thought may not be the right thing to do, but they become irrational. So if the managers are there available during this phase, that will not happen to them. And then last we come is the new beginning, and these are some very interesting suggestions, and I'll just let you guys read for a moment and tell me if you would like me to elaborate or talk about any of these. And one of them, really I love this, is the point in gray here, which is build in responsiveness and flexibility. Why are we saying this is that, see, we might have great plans about something that that will work, but is that something that is going as per plan? We don't know. So hence we are building responsiveness and flexibility. Yeah, Satya, please, you want to share something? Yes, Satya.
Yeah, I had a question. I think, Yogesh, that this is related to this emotional intelligence thing by Daniel Goldman. How do you think it's empathy, the five elements of emotional intelligence? How do you think empathy plays a major role or does it really play a role when you are handling the situation for a change thing in an organizational viewpoint? What's your say?
Yeah. I mean, I have absolutely a response, but I would like maybe one of our participants to give it a shot at your question, and very, very nice question. So anybody would like to respond to Satya? Anybody can give it a shot. The role of empathy in change management.
No, it's very much required, because the leader or whatever looking for something has to listen to how they are taking it, how they are viewing this change. I may be looking from my angle, but how they are looking, and see whether they have understood in what perspective. Maybe are they thinking that it's a threat to them, or really what is happening. So that way that empathy plays a role.
Very nice, absolutely. In fact, Satya, I just want to add to what Satish said, is that empathy is like a very, very important leadership skill that I think everybody has to. And Microsoft is a classic example right now. So I was, when I was leading the session on Saturday for ISB, we had a graduate MBA from Microsoft. And, she said that, Satya Nadella, if you read his books, you will start seeing the kind of challenges he faced on his personal front. Can you imagine two child having major special problem compared, out of the three children, and he getting through that phase, and he learned empathy so much with his son Zain, he talks about. And what he bought in Microsoft after he took over is the whole thing of empathy with the customer. Yeah, because maybe the leaders before Satya had become so less on empathy that they said that I think people have no choices but to just use our product. And Satya said that, yeah, today what we are doing is true, but will that survive if we continue with this mode for too long? And you can see while there was no business downturn that is happening because this element, but Satya was very clear that the moment we bring in empathy in our organization, we'll just grow. And in 3 years' time, the valuation of Microsoft doubled, $660 billion. Can you imagine? So empathy has got such a power that, in my view, I feel that the moment I have empathy with people, it opens doors for conversation. It shuts down my standard thinking के यार इससे बात करके बकवास, इससे क्या बात करना है? Yeah, you start suspending your judgment about people. And sometimes, many things are not, you can't really prescribe in life, right? I mean, it is a contextual response that you have to give. Where will that contextual response come from? From empathy. Because that thought that I should continue with this conversation will come from the empathy that it will develop. So Satya, there is no doubt and no question that change is for sure, but empathy should be leaders' part of character, in their day-to-day interaction.
Thank you, Yogesh. I think very nicely explained. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. Indrajit, you want to share something? Yeah.
Yeah, because you brought up empathy, I had a question, but I'll probably just share a little bit. One of the things that I found is when you're empathic and you are authentic, you're honest about the problems that you're facing, not by showing the problems, but just by being honest the way you talk to people. I think that gets you a lot of respect as a leader, because then they see you not as somebody infallible and, like a hero, but they understand that, yes, you're leading them, but that, yes, you also have constraints and they're more likely to go along.
Yes.
And the other part is when you're talking to other leaders, one of the good things that empathy does is, like Yogesh said, open up avenues for conversations. I mean, just today morning, I was talking to a leader who's extremely closed. And we were talking about getting some work done from his team. And he was very close to the point. I said, I've done these 2 or 3 things to reduce the workload of your people. And that's when I saw that he started talking, or at least listening more. So I think whether it's leaders or the people that you're working with, it has a positive impact on people in a lot of different ways. The question I had for Yogesh was, you talked about, the three changes of phase. And I was just wondering, how do we, especially when we are working with very large teams and we cannot talk to each of them individually, because, this kind of connect, this helping them understand that there are phases and you need to go through them, and even empathizing with them, in a similar context. How do you create that connect when you are working with very large teams?
Indrajit, since I worked in large organizations, small organizations, what I have seen is that large organizations have that maturity to bring in that element, and it's a very nice point that you brought in, and I am just going to show you one slide that might actually answer your query in some form. And in fact, if we had more time, we would have done this exercise. So what is happening, Indrajit, is that many times we don't spend enough time on putting together the entire communication strategy across levels. Yeah, so if we start making that, so I remember in some of the organizations that I worked, we actually had a very nice, interesting model that they would follow. So what would happen is that, so in the organization, I was at a general manager level. Yeah, so if a new shift is going to happen in the organization, like somebody is going to be moving out and somebody is going to take over, Thursday at 4:00, we will be invited for a conference call. And we would be told that Monday, the announcement of this business unit is going to go on to all the employees. Can you take this deck? So they will give us 4 or 5 slides of the rationale behind the change, who is the new person, what is the change all about, how is it going to impact the units. Yeah. And by next day, Friday, 4:00, we are supposed to communicate this to our delivery managers. And by 11:00, by 11 to 4 to their project managers, from 4 to 7 on Friday to the project leaders. So what has happened is, at least up to the 4 or 5 levels within the organization, everybody is aware of the change. On Monday, when the announcement goes, or the announcement goes on Friday night or Saturday morning, people have started to read, they started making to have their questions. When they arrive on a Monday morning, they first go to the project leader and say, hey, we saw this announcement. What is it all about? And then everybody is aware of that. So yeah, it's all about good thing that we are going to see this big progress and this leader is moving for a better role and here is a new leader. Fantastic. But Tuesday, everything is settled. Imagine if we had not done this process. The moment the announcement goes, everybody starts making their own stories. So the people go to the project leader and say, yaar, mere ko malum nahi. They talk to the delivery, they don't know. And then by the time it reaches the general manager, the whole chaos has started. And people who have, like Priya was talking about those people, right? Infant attrition. They say, boss, yahan to bahut changes hai. Let me quit and go back to my previous organization. I don't want to live in this uncertainty. So if you were to look at these vectors for communicating change, and I'm not prescribing that we should have only this that I've shared, but I just telling that, can your core group, the people who are involved in the change, sit together and put a plan that what is the hierarchy structure? Yeah. When is this change going to happen? What are the different means of communication? Which mailbox the mail is going to go? What is the draft of the email? What are the different, if there are frequently asked questions, can you put it in a common drive that people have any question, put a helpline for people. Circulate certain FAQs even on emails. The idea is that the more and more people have the information about the change, the less they will create their own stories. The less they, so many times leaders ask me this question, "Arey, time kidhar hai yaar ye sab karne ka?" So I tell them this, that see, time you have to spend anyway addressing those chaos after the change. It is better you spend time now, because if you spend time now, it is 50% lesser than addressing the chaos with zero loss in infant attrition and all the other issues. So that if we can start bringing in, and these vectors of communication is a brilliant starter for all of us to go back and think about this change. So imagine we have this beautiful framework. We now understand that there are 3 phases. Now we understand what do we mean by emotions and feelings. We know the limbic system. We know the rational brain. Yeah, we now know. So even while this communication happening, imagine if everybody knows that, yeah, there are going to some people in the neutral phase who will be confused. So don't get upset with them. It is part of the journey. By design, so you tell your team member, अगर कोई ज़्यादा आके सवाल पूछ रहा है तो अच्छा है. It is good. That is a sign that your change is happening very well. Yeah. So that I think if you can plan, Indrajit, it is very powerful. Yeah.
Thanks, Yogesh. I'll actually take this and see, which of the ones I can use. I can see I'm using some, but definitely want to use a few others as well.
Yes. I mean, this is very powerful. I mean, we run this entire building change agility. It's a full 1-day program, and emotional intelligence 1-day program. So I'm trying to combine 2 days program in a 90-minute webinar for all of you. So it will really help you. But I want to trigger a lot of these questions in your mind. I want to have you guys go back and do that. So essentially, if you look at, there are 4 broad key principles that we are looking at. People side of change or the building change agilities. You have to end before you begin. Very important. Okay. That bride has to do a proper ending with the other family. Okay. When I say ending, is not that you don't have to have relationship with them. You have to say that now this is your new home. Okay. And we'll take care of you as good as you had with the other home. So when Priya gave this infant attrition problem, I am saying to the new employee that we will take care of you as nicely as you were taken care in the previous organization, even if I am giving you 30% hike. Between the ending and the beginning, there will always be a gap, and this gap can be creative, which means that if as a leader, you're not upset with that change, you will actually get more ideas. People might say, sir, ऐसे change नहीं करके ऐसे करें क्या? So in future, you can say, a great idea, we'll document this, next change will implement that. Transition is a source of renewal. So you should tell your people that crossover last year, when pandemic hit, most training companies actually were very upset that boss abhi kya hoga, hum log ko training ka kya hoga, customers are putting their budget down. We said, oh, this is fantastic. Now, I can invite Ashish Mukherjee for my session sitting is in Delhi. Otherwise, kahan milega apne ko? Vinay Chauhan. So we have actually done more international programs in last 1 year than we have done in last 6 years. So we have doubled our work in last 1 year. Karthik, who has joined us recently, I could never imagine hiring such a senior person last year. So when we looked at the change, we looked at it as a renewal. We looked at our entire content. So if you look at our presentation that you're seeing right now, if you looked at the classrooms model, it didn't have so much of white space. It didn't have such a nice color combination because we never had so much of online. So now if you're going to see the slides for 3 hours in a program, I need to have a very soothing background. I need to have all this thinking through. Yeah. So the point is, if your team can look at transition as a source of renewal, which means people will start wanting more and more change. So they will come to you, asking for more change, and people will go through different speed of transition. So the way Karthik will respond to change versus Ashish will respond versus Indrajit and Satya is all different. Because today, after going through this, maybe Ashish will start reflecting on his amygdala hijack. He'll reflect on his limbic system and talk to me more often about the alliance partner that we are discussing. So then what will happen? There is a change that is happening. Yeah. So if you can appreciate the differences that people have in the speed at which they transition, you as a leader will never have any challenge with dealing with any change anytime, whether it is in your personal front or on your, on your professional front. And I think I'll end my session with a nice takeaway slide. But before I give you a takeaway slide, I just want to ask all of you, what are your takeaways from today's session? We have another, I think, just about 8 to 10 minutes to go, but I would like all of you to turn on your cameras and maybe have the last conversation with me for 5-10 minutes before we
I think
go
I
to
like
this.
the ending neutral and beginning concept.
Yes, Priya. Yeah.
Something new.
Yes, Priya. I think it's a very, very nice model, and I love it myself. Yeah. And so, thanks, Priya.
It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting model too, and it's very easy, Priya. Like this entire session is not at all complicated. It's very easy. It's just matter of me telling people to pick it up and practice it. Yeah, Ashish.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that I would always consider emotional intelligence as secondary to your intelligence, as IQ tests and all that. Maybe IQ tests need to be, in my mind, that is, need more study.
Very nice. Very nice. Super. Thanks, Ashish. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, that concept of bridge. I was always thinking there's a start and end. There is nothing in between. So that's that neutral. But one question, conceptually it is good, but in reality, don't you think all these three things happening simultaneously?
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. In fact, so if you look at the diagram, Satish, it is like a river. The water is all mixed up. Absolutely. In the neutral phase, people are still thinking about ending. In the ending, so they are in ending, but even in the beginning, so you may be in but your people are still in ending. And even in some people, some are in ending, some are in neutral. See, when you make a change at your home, right? One of the son will say, "Aji, chalo chalte hain, Hyderabad shift ho jati hai." One son will say, "No, I don't want to go there." So one guy is in ending, not wanting to shift at all. One guy is in neutral. One guy is excited about new beginning. So as a leader, if I can acknowledge that and work on to get these people to do the guy who is in neutral to do proper ending, the guy who is doing new beginning also do proper ending. But if the ending is not done, the new beginning will again go back to ending.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Nice
sure.
of you.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Anybody else before?
For me, there are two key takeaways.
Yes,
One
Priyanka.
is, of course, William Bridges, The Transition Journey, which talks about the ending, the neutral zone, and the beginning, the new
Yes.
beginning,
Yes.
and the 4 key principles of any change.
Yes, very
Those
nice.
are very important because every day we deal with changes, and specifically when we talk about having new people onboarded,
Yes.
it's very important that we give them that platform where they can, accept those. One, we accept them as our or part of our organization, and they also accept the organization as a part of them. Like I always say that you work with the organization and you don't work for the organization.
Yes.
So there's always a difference between when you work for an organization and you work with an organization.
Yeah.
So that's very important that we all have learned from this training.
In fact, Priyanka, I would say one more addition. Not work or with. I am the organization.
I am the organization. Yeah, that's
नहीं क्या और कौन है? मैं भी तो organization है. Absolutely.
Yes.
So in
I
fact,
am the organization and I am your brand ambassador.
absolutely. There's a question. When management team, I have this coaching session. I say, who is that management? Is you only, na?
Yeah.
So I am the management. Isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, you have to rapidly move actually. Yeah, so very nice. So thank you so much. I'll just give you a very nice slide on the takeaway, so which will come as a very nice gift to all of you. I think it's a post Diwali gift, I can say. हाँ कि हम लोग के पास तो गिफ्ट खाली ज्ञान ही है, तो हम लोग आपको जितना नॉलेज चाहिए दे सकते हैं, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन स्टोरीज दे सकते हैं, and we can help all of you. So this is a very nice creative that I will share with all of you. In the deck it will come, and you can see how you can do all these beautiful bullets that are there in every stage. Take your time to very nicely go through this. So if you can read Emotional Intelligence 2.2 by Travis Bradbury, if you can read William Bridges' Managing Transition, and if you can look at this deck, I am sure that you will get lots and lots of success in all the changes that you're going to do in your in your organization on your personal and professional front. Yeah. So we're coming very close to the end of the session. It's already 6:25. I don't know where the time flew. So thank you so much for your valuable time. And some of these are also, just want to share that we are in this space for last 6 years. So feel free to reach out to us on any of these topics. And we used to do quite a bit of webinar very regularly, but in between we had taken a pause. And this is also part of this initiative of Leadership Chaska. So Chaska is like addiction, but in our term, Chaska is Crossover Hosted Association for Skills and Advancement, which means that every month, second week of the month, we're going to host this. And it's not only me. Next month I'll do one more, but then the January we will invite the CEO of the CFO of L&T Metro, or we'll invite one of the leaders to come and have you guys talk. So the Chaska is like a not-for-profit organization of Crossover, where it is dedicated to advancement of knowledge and skills. So if you guys want to also come in and run any of the program, share with other people, this will slowly become a platform for that. Yeah. So thank you so much. And then I'll see you again. You're on our mailing list. So next month, do join us and take advantage of this session. Yeah. So,
Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yogesh.
Thank you so much.